Hiyo! Today I'm gonna show you how to knit this beautiful grandmother slippers. I actually made the 3 videos before, quite long time ago, and today updated one. I think this is the final pattern. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first of all, please check my description box for all the detail. I include my written pattern, also the links you need. This slippers, I didn't take swatch and gauge, okay? But you can do it without it, okay? Knit from heel to toe, and if you have this foot map, you can knit any size you want. I will tell you in the video about the width and length, little bit more detail. One thing I want you to remember is that this is quite stretchy. So you kind of have to, remember that. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so let me talk about the cast on. Obviously, you use 2 color of yarn. You need very long tail. These long tails are not for cast on. Okay? Anyway, I make the 2 slip knot like that. Okay? And I'm gonna start with the pink yarn, long tail, okay? Sewing, for the heel. Okay? So let's do it. Grab the needle, put the needle in, and needle point should be pointing at right side. Okay? And long tail, that side, far from you, and working yarn is close to you. I'm going to use the working yarn to make cast. Okay? Again, long tail ends is for sewing part. Anyway, using the front loop to make a cast. It's like a cable cast, but using the front loop all the time. Okay? So grab the working yarn, pull through that loop. There you go. And pull, hook on to left needle. Like that. You can kind of snug and then put the needle in to the front loop, then pull through. That's it. Super easy. And I made 60 casts on, 5 stitches in alternating. Okay? So I have to actually make the 5 new cast with pink, then switch the color. There we go. This is 4th cast. So I believe I need to make 1 more with pink. If you pull the working yarn too hard, it's so hard to put the needle back in. So it's up to you, There you go. Make sure using the front loop, then pull through. There you go. And hook on. Now 5 cast, right? Anyway, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grab blue yarn. I have to change. And you remember I already made the, slip knot. There you go. end tail far from you, working yarn close to you. And don't just hook on the left needle. Hook on to right needle and pull through. This way, it's connected. If you actually hook on to the left needle, it's not still connected yet, right? So this way, for sure, connected. There you go. So you count this slip knot as first stitch job blue. So I am going to make another 4 cast. By the way, the number of the cast on stitches determines the final width of the pieces. I'll talk about it later, but you will, it will be folded later to wrap around your foot. Please remember that, okay? So I think I need one more. So after 5 cast with blue, I gotta go back to pink, right? So it's not the definite rule, but you grab the pink yarn, working yarn, behind the blue working yarn like that. Then start making cast again. And same thing, again, when you change the color, you grab the, next color behind, That way it's kind of nice looking later on. But it doesn't really matter if you don't, okay? There you go. And by the way, in my written pattern, I include few tips, okay? So make sure to read that tips as well. Okay, there you go. Grab the blue yarn behind the pink yarn. And as you already see, it's tangle, obviously, because I, grab the pink yarn from here and there, right? So untangle every once in a while. That way, easier for you to knit. Anyway, so again, I made 60 cast, right? So 5 pink, 5 blue, 5 pink, 5 blue, something like that. So 5 stitches times 2, which is pink and blue. So 10 total times 6 repeat equal 60 casts. Okay? So you just, make cast as many as you want. But keep in mind that adding more stitches will also increase the heel height. You know what I'm saying? But if you add too many because you want to have the higher heel, that means the foot part is becoming too loose. So you kind of have to think. All right? And I'll talk about it later. You just focus on, making a cast. Now, go. And like I said, earlier, I made 3 videos of same, slippers. It's a little bit different than this pattern, okay? Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, can you see the floating yarn? Okay, nice and neat, right? That's because you kind of have a rule that you pick the, next color of yarn behind the, current yarn. So very neat behind. And front part, you don't see any of the floating yarn. There you go. I made 60. This pattern is naturally stretchy, so it's the best to customize the size to your own preference for a snug or relaxed fit. It's really up to you. You know, as you can see, 60 doesn't look like enough, but it is enough. So you kind of have to, think. And to make a swatch and gauge, it's a little bit, it doesn't really go that way, because later. Okay, so I think you have to kind of knit, first and then see. So this is my foot map. Okay, so I'm gonna knit kind of rectangle and wrap it. So same length, right? This is what I meant. So wrap it around your foot, and also that'll be height of the the heel. And now I want to talk about the length, vertical length, how much you have to knit, right? So the width is enough length for wrapping around. The vertical length, to cover your toe. But you have to remember the last 5 rows will be decreasing. So you kind of have to stop, okay, 5 rows before the toe. Also, you have to think about stretchy part. So you kind of have to do that, kind of split the stitches a little bit more to make sure, that's enough or not. Okay? So the first, I think you should knit one for yourself. Okay? So let's move on to the real knitting part. Anyway, I left a long tail for sewing later, right? So I'm gonna actually kind of tie the lightly knot and try not to kind of get confused later. Anyway, so row number 1 to row number 5 is kind of the preparation rows, and you have to follow the color in previous stitches until end of row 4. Okay, so row number 1 to row number 4, you have to knit with the color you're looking at it. You know what I'm saying? And row 5, you have to switch the color. Okay, so let's do that. And the one thing I have to tell you, every beginning of the row, you have to twist the working yarn like that to start. Okay? Also, I have to actually talk about the resting yarn, which means the one you're not using. So right now I'm using blue yarn, right? Which means pink is resting. And it says row number 1, resting yarn at the back. So, okay, knitting with blue and resting yarn should be at the back. Okay, there we go. Now I switch to pink. So leave the blue at the back and I'm gonna knit with pink. Okay, so leave the blue one at the back because that's what the the pattern said so. Because Now you're facing to right side, so the other side, which means wrong side. So floating yarn has to be at the back, the wrong side. That's why it says resting yarn at the back. You know what I'm saying? That's all you have to remember. And everything is all knit because this is garter stitch. So anyway, so now you grab the pink yarn like that and then knit 5. There you go. One more. Then after you knit 5 with pink, drop the pink yarn and leave it at the back and grab the blue yarn and then knit 5. And when you change the color, okay, you kind of have to pull little harder. Not too hard, but little harder. Kind of snug, tug, whatever the you like. See? Okay? Resting yarn and then working yarn kind of across, which is floating, right? And don't knit loosely. You kind of have to little pull, then start knitting. And I'll tell you in a minute. Anyway, so row number 1, you're facing right side. So the floating yarn has to be on wrong side, which is at the back. Do you get it? You know, this slipper, it's all about resting yarn. That's it. Okay? And row number 1, it's super easy because you're facing on right side. So you don't really have to worry about it. But wrong side, you kind of have to think sometimes. Anyway, let's finish this row. Again, I'm going to actually tell you the stitch is garter stitch. So knit right side and wrong side, right? And row number 1 to row number 4, same color, with previous row. At the very beginning of the row, you have to twist, okay? And the resting yarn always always be on wrong side, okay? I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so row number 2, wrong side. Let's see. Okay, you can see the floating yarn now on wrong side. That's the one. And right side, there's no floating yarn. Okay, so let's do the row number 2, same color, and you have to twist at the very beginning of the row, right? But why you have to twist at the very beginning? But look at this. You see the floating yarn, right? However, if you don't twist, okay, the first 5 stitch will be no floating yarn. So it's gonna be thinner than other part. You know what I'm saying? So when you bring the blue yarn like that and twist, okay, blue yarn comes at the very beginning. So when you knit blue, you make floating there. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason. Okay, I'm actually focus on untangle the yarn at this moment. There you go. So, do you understand? So now you start knitting pink, right? And blue is at the very front. So when you start knitting with blue, you make floating on first 5 stitches. So it's gonna get thicker. You know what I'm saying? There you go. Here. So anyway, there we go. I am going to, okay, knit with blue. However, you have to grab the working yarn with pink working yarn, and leave it out front, which is wrong side. If I leave the pink yarn at the back, you can see floating yarn out front, which you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? So when you're doing knitting on wrong side, you have to make sure resting at the front, in front of you. Okay? Another word, on wrong side. And then with blue, I am going to start knitting. Okay? So right here. Now done with blue. So I am going to knit with pink over pink stitch, but first put the blue working yarn out front and then grab the pink. There we go. So that's the floating, right? Then start knitting with pink over pink stitches. So as long as you remember these rules, easy. Okay? And one more thing, when you change the color, okay, in this case, I'm actually using the blue yarn, and now I'm gonna change, right? So leave the blue out front, and then pink. Now, kind of pull little bit, don't let the floating yarn too loose. This is not the typical two color knitting. Did you really see when I actually start knitting with blue? I kind of snug. I kind of pull little bit. So let's see. This one pink, and when I start, pull. Okay, so you have to kind of remember that tension, and I'll tell you why. Again, this isn't a typical two-color knitting. If it's typical, two-color knitting, you shouldn't, pull too hard. But this time, pull both working yarn slightly tighter than usual. This extra tension causes the fabric to pucker and naturally form these soft tube-like. You know what I'm saying? Little wavy. If you don't pull, it's going to be very flat. Just regular two-color, knitting. So when you start using new color, pull a little bit to make the previous 5 stitches kind of wavy. You know what I'm saying? There you go. But don't pull too hard. If you pull too hard, what happens is more smaller tube and more tighter, not much stretchy, effect. So you kind of have to practice, but little tighter than regular two color. Okay? So that's what I want you to remember. Don't let the floating yarn too loose. Okay? So Again, I already explained, but I'm gonna make sure at the beginning of the each round, twist, no matter what. Okay? And once you actually start knitting, you just let go of the, the pink yarn or whatever you're not using. Okay? So, again, the first 5 stitches, you have floating yarn to make it thicker, same as other 5s. There you go. That's it. Super easy, isn't it? I needed the pair before a long time ago, and I totally forgot about this twisting part. Then, after I finished the project, the first 5 stitches for both sides was so flat, and I didn't like it at all. So make sure about that, because first 5 for both sides is thinner, and flatter, which I didn't really like it. Anyway, so I'm working on the row number 3 right side, which is same as row number 1, and row number 4 same thing too. Okay, and again, you have to be careful which side is wrong side, and that's all. Simple, isn't it? So this is row number 4, wrong side. Resting yarn has to be at the front, which is wrong side. And still, knit pink over pink stitches and blue yarn over blue stitches. And again, I told you way earlier, row number 1 to row number 5 is kind of the, the preparation row. Okay? But you know what? It's simple, pretty much repeating of row number 1 and row number 2. And in this case, row number 5, changing the color. And after that, you have to actually repeat row number 6 to row number 11. And on row number 11, you have to change the, the color. That's really all. Okay? But I will show you how to do anyway. Okay? There you go. As you can see, all my, working yarns are all tangled, but that's okay. Once you finish that row, you kind of untangle. Okay? So row number 5, right side, change the color. Now you have to knit with pink over blue stitches. Okay? So it's same. There we go. Twist, right? So this time I'm gonna use the pink. So twist, leave the blue working yarn alone. Okay? There we go. That's all. And after that, it's same. But one more thing you have to be very careful. Sometimes, you get used to and you start watching TV or YouTube or whatever, start knitting, and you just keep knitting with, same yarn. Then you're going to ruin it, right? So you kind of have to go back. So you have to make sure every 5 stitches. Okay? There we go. Change the color. So pink yarn with over, blue stitches. And after that, the changing color is only on row number 5 and row number 11, and rest of them, same color. Okay, so if you see pink stitches, you have to use pink yarn. If you, see blue stitches, you have to use blue yarn. Okay, only you change the color when the pattern say change the color. That's all. Okay, and anyway, after row number 5, just follow my written pattern from row number 6 to row number 10. Okay, which is just do the same thing as row number 1 and row number 2. That's all. And I'll meet you row number 11, but row number 11 is just change the color and same thing, which is, same as row number 5. So, I don't really have to tell you anything anymore, but, I'll meet you on row number 11 after I finish this row with you. Okay? So grab the pink yarn, kind of, little with little tension, start knitting with pink over blue stitches. And after 5 pink, I am going to use blue. There we go. And, first few rows, even if you pull, working a little bit, harder, doesn't look like the, tube-like, but it will. Okay? There we go. Again, starting from row number 6 to row number 10, just follow my written instruction. And meet you right on the row number 11. Well, on the 11th row, nothing really, new. I just want to show you how it looks. Pretty much it. So if you already know what's going on, you can actually skip next 6 minutes. Jump on to the 38 minutes. So I am going to talk about the decreasing part. Anyway, I just want to show you change the color. That's it. Again, on 11th, I'm changing the color. That doesn't mean, you don't have to twist at the beginning. I just did. And it's a pink stitch on the needle. So I'm going to start with blue. Okay? Simple. So again, I just did the row number 1 to row number 5. That's pretty much like, preparation rows. And from row number 6 to row number 11 is the main pattern. So you just have to repeat row number 6 to row number 11 until your desired length. Okay? And one thing I have to tell you, to change the color of yarn, you have to do it on right side. Because if you do change the color on the wrong side, which means right side will be pearl stitch, right? So changing the color on wrong side with knitting stitch, the other side, you can see the pearl stitch. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit, funny transition. It's not smooth because suddenly you see pearl stitch. If you actually do, you know what I mean. Okay? So again, you have to change the color on right side. what I'm saying? You know, another word, if you want to actually need little bit longer rectangle, you don't have to change the color on 11th. You know what I'm saying? You can actually make the shorter rectangle or way longer rectangle. Okay, but you know, I like this ratio, so you know, I change on 11th. Okay. Anyway, so I just finished the row 11th, and you have to knit until your desired length. There you go. Then I'm gonna start decreasing. So one, well, 5 rows before I finish. So you have to use your imagination. You know what I'm saying? So, well, look at this. So I did quite a bit, right? And when I put this on, it's gonna be like this. So a little bit, showing my toes, right? And I'm adding up the, stretchy part. Then I thought, okay, this is it, right? So you can read, my knitting tip. Okay, the length corresponds to your foot size, the vertical length. Okay, so you have to stop few rows, which is 5 rows. Sometimes you do more rows to decrease because if you have too many stitches, right? Anyway, so what I'm doing right now is last 11th row. So as you can see, I'm changing the color. This is on row number 11th. Okay, so what am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, decreasing start on after the 11th row. Okay, I just actually found I made a mistake, one stitch. But it's okay, one stitch. Never mind. Okay? Anyway, I finish row 11. I just changed the color. Then decreasing kicks in. Okay? And it's gonna be only 5 rows and decreasing on odd number of the row. So which is wrong side. Okay? And even number, I don't decrease. Anyway, so after the 11th, the yarn color, okay, is same as previous. That's what I want you to remember. Okay, so now I'm looking at the pink yarn, right? So I'm going to use the pink. So I just twist the working yarns, and with pink yarn, knit two together 3 times. 1, 2, knit two together 3 times with pink, and next one mixed with pink and blue. Okay, the first one, use the first color, so pink. So now you have a 3 pink, right, instead of 5 pink. And then, okay, resting yarn out front, right, and then next 4 blue stitches, knit two together. So in this row, you just knit two together all the way. So you will have the only half of the stitch total. So I have 60 stitches, so it's going to be 30. So repeat, knit two together 3 times with first color, color A, in this case, pink for me, right? There you go. And then next full stitch with the blue, I'm gonna do the knit two together 2 times with color B. So 3 pink and 2 blue all the way total of half of the cast on number. So it's gonna be 30 stitches for me. So that's all. So knit two together 3 times, and if you have the mix stitch like pink and blue, you have to use the color of on the first stitch. So for me, pink. Easy, isn't it? You know, and don't forget about the resting yarn. Resting yarn has to be at the front, which means on wrong side. Okay, you know, you focus too much about the decreasing, right? And if you forget about the resting yarn and leave it at the back, it's gonna be, you know, the floating yarn showing on right side. So be careful. There we go. And see, I'm thinking. There we go. So, the reason why I start decreasing after the 11th, you kind of know, right? Because you don't really want to change the you know, color in the middle of the decreasing, right? So that's the reason. There you go. Almost. So one, I think this is the one. I made a mistake. There you go. Two, and I want to see the I have a 6 blue stitches. So right there, I made a mistake, but I ignore one little mistake. Nobody care. There we go. So blue 2, knit 2 together with blue and turn. There we go. Can you see? It's very, you know, smooth transition. And again, even number of the row, you know, I'm not gonna change the color and also not decreasing. So just straightforward. If it's blue stitch, use blue yarn. If it's pink stitch, use pink yarn. And don't forget about the resting yarn, has to be at the back. That's all. Okay? And no decreasing, which means the same stitch count, right? 30. And then next row, I am going to do the decreasing again. Here we go. Pink, pink. You know, the knitting part, it's not that difficult. You just have to be careful with the knitting tension. Like I said, you know, you kind of want to have tube-like, you know, dimension. Then you kind of have to adjust your knitting tension. You know, if you do knit as just a regular color work, you try not to do the pulling, right? Because you don't want to have wavy, you know, looking. So that's the only part, right? Okay, so I'm just showing you. Okay, looks good. And row number 3 up, decreasing row number 3, wrong side. Okay, twist 2 threads at the beginning, and now, okay, knit 2 together with pink. Okay, there we go. And knit 1 with pink, and then knit 2 with the color B, so blue. So only 1 stitch decreasing and repeat. Knit 1 and, knit 2 together and knit 1 with pink, and then knit 2 with blue yarn. You know what I'm doing? Okay, so after this, it's gonna be 2 pink, 2 blue. Okay, so it's easy, and I can actually decrease one more time evenly. That's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so first 3 of the pink, it's gonna be knit 2 together and knit 1, and then knit 1 1 with, knit 2 with the blue yarn. So now you have 2 pink stitch and 2 blue stitch, then repeat, right? And you should be able to do that, as long as you have same stitch count to start. I mean, use the 5 stitches block, and alternating. If you use 6 or 7 stitches count, it's a little bit different, way of the decreasing, but as long as you have 5 stitches, in alternating blocks method, this is all good. Okay? Just, follow my written instruction. Knit it together 1 time, then knit 1 with the color A and knit 2 with the color B. There we go. So that's good. And decreasing row number 4, right side, no decreasing. So if it's blue stitch, use the blue yarn. If it's pink, pink yarn. That's all. Okay? Super easy. There we go. Pink. Anyway, it's almost done. One more decreasing row, and then start sewing part, which I hate. But I seriously don't like the sewing part. But anyway, let's do that. So row number 5, decreasing row. Okay, and super easy. So now you have 2 pink stitch and 2 blue stitch, right? And knit 2 together all the way. And same color. So there you go. Knit 2 together with pink, and then change the color and knit 2 together with blue and repeat. Okay, knit 2 together with pink and knit 2 together with blue. That's all. Easy, isn't it? But you kind of have to change the color. So that's the only part, it's kind of, you know, pain in neck. And don't forget about the resting yarn part. Okay, resting yarn at front, right? And one more thing I want to tell you about the sewing. You probably know, okay, I'm gonna sew after this, so it's easy. So just, you know, not watching. No, I'm gonna actually sew together. It's a little bit different way. Okay, especially people watch my video before about this grandma slippers. I am going to use little bit different way of the sewing, so you better watch until the end. Okay, so anyway, I finish, and I have not too many stitches left. But if you actually make the more stitch count and more stitches left, you can actually decrease one more time. Okay, you can read the tip, right there. Okay, as long as the color will be pink and blue, fine. Anyway, so this is easy, just like when you actually knit the hat, okay, decreasing right on top of your toe, making the head and make the crown part. So that's pretty much it, right? Close that top part and sewing. And you have to make sure you have to have, you know, foot opening part. So, which is up to you, right? So I decide right there, you know, maybe 4 or 5 the blocks away from the stitches, and I put the clip-on marker to make sure, and cut the very long end tail, so you don't have to attach, so you can start sewing right away. Anyway, I'm using 2 thread to sew them up, and now I'm picking up all the stitch from the needle. There we go. And easy, just like a hat, top of the hat. And there we go. I gotta be careful. Yeah. And pull really hard. So there we go. That's the shape of the toe I just created, right? Yeah, like that. And you have to sew and make sure the each block matches, you know? So anyway, I'm gonna actually go one more round to secure the top of the toe part. There you go. And flip inside out. There you go. And try to matches the block. It's easy, right? Because the changing the color every row, every 5 row, 6 row, something like that, right? So anyway, and use the ladder, you know, stitch one down and go back to where the thread came. But you know what? I didn't do really ladder stitch. Anyway, whichever. But little by little, because when you put the slipper on, you don't really want to see the this stitching joint. I mean, kind of split, right? So just there you go. Just be careful about the matching block. That's all. There we go. Until right there. Still long way to go. Ooh. And here comes. I just remove the stitch. And that part, you kind of have to open, right? When you actually put it on. So I had to make sure a few more times, and sew them together and make sure it's secure. Okay, there we go. And weave the ends off after that. That's it. And when you sew, make sure you're sewing both edge together. Otherwise, it's very bulky inside. Okay, there we go. And now heel. So you just have to sew from top down. This is what I did from top down. I just want to show you the difference. So the one I just saw top down. If you want to do the easy way, just do it. Just sew. Okay? But this in this video, I'm gonna show you a different way. So the stop when you reach the last two color block, total of 4 blocks. You know what I'm saying? So you just sew from the top, but at the bottom of the 4 blocks, I'll stop and I'll do different way of sewing for the heel. Okay? So again, use the tapestry needle with 2 threads. You can do one, but I thought 2 is stronger. So, okay, so you can do sewing top down, but if you want to know the new technique, just watch. Okay, so the top part, again, that's the open part. So I have to do couple times at least and secure them, because every time you kind of open when you put it on, you know, it's gonna get looser and looser, right? So I have to make sure it's very secure. So, and you look for the edge of the slippers, which is cast, because lots of floating yarn around, so you don't know which one is the which. So don't just sew with the floating stitches. Okay, make sure you grab the cast on stitch. Okay, and you just have to sew, and there we go. So now I have 4 blocks left. So 2 blocks each side. You know what I'm saying? There we go. And I flip inside out again. And now I'm using 1 thread because that'll be easier. And the remaining 4 blocks, run the yarn along the edge in a loop. There we go. Just like that. Every stitch. Do not pick the floating. You have to pick the cast on. Do you understand? Along. So now a second block and moving on to the other side, right? And this is at the end of the heel, the bottom of the heel part. So you can make it bigger, but maybe 4 blocks, you know, would be enough. Like inch and a half, something like that. There you go. So I did all the way around. Now you pull. There we go. Just like, the crown, you know, just like the tip of your toe, right? So same thing. So go around and pull. Then weave the, ends off. So now I'm using 2 thread and make sure, it's secure. There we go. It's very tight, so I kind of have to do this slowly and push the needle in, and I want to weave the ends off on the wrong side so you don't really see the seam or anything. There we go. That's about it. And you can tell the difference actually, if you sew them, straight down or using this heel around, you know, sewing, seaming, a little bit. But if you don't look carefully, maybe people don't know. But which one you like? I like the new technique. Kinda. And it's easy enough, isn't it? So that's it. Okay, so I cut the yarn and flip it inside out. There we go. Beautiful, tip of the toe and heel, little round. Did you see? There we go. And the pair of the traditional grandma slipper has done. Okay, this side you just sew from top down, and this side round heel. Cute, isn't it? See? Can you see the difference? Which one you like? Yeah, I like that one better. Okay, it's really up to you. Okay, there we go. So this is my slipper for this winter. Yay! I like it. Okay. Anyway, sorry for delay uploading my video. I've been very busy, but I did it. Okay. Enjoy knitting. If you have any question, let me know. All right. Bye for now.